Moscow wants to manage the mess that we see in Europe today. In fact, they've insulated themselves from the mess. So is Orban, so is Poland, so is Slovakia. These states don't want anything to do with the catastrophe that exists inside these Western countries. So I think ultimately the whole thing will just fold quietly. You know, things that you talk about, it'll end with a whimper, not a bang. And I think that's what will ultimately happen because European states are going to implode financially. I think Starmer and Macron and Merz are all going to be out of a job. End of discussion. Then what?
I think things sit on the peace spectrum right now. And what advances is Russia making on the battlefield from a strategic perspective? Are they going as hard as they ever were, even after the Alaska meeting? Where do things stand militarily right now?
Well, I think something that's very interesting is you've got a lot of Russian special operations forces now operating in the outskirts of Odessa. And they've helped to target all the installations in Odessa that are of any military character or capability. It looks to me as though the Russians are prepping Odessa for eventual occupation. And the Ukrainians don't have forces to do anything about it. They can't protect it. They can't easily control it. So keep your eye on Odessa in the months ahead, because I'd be very surprised if that didn't fall into the hands of the Russians. As far as what's happening on the other side of the river, they're cleaning up. That's the best way to put it. That's something we've never understood. Everybody says, well, it's all about territory. No, it isn't. It's never been about territory. First of all, the areas the Russians now control are historically Russian anyway. And that was always true from the very beginning. And that includes, by the way, Crimea. When I say always, certainly since the 1770s. So that's a pretty long time. It's about as long as we've existed as a nation. So that's not new. The issue, though, for the Russians is they want to control whatever is necessary to ensure two things. First of all, that Ukraine is neutral, and that neutrality is aligned with essentially the kind of treaty that the Austrian State Treaty represents. Something which limits Ukraine's military capability and absolutely excludes the possibility that there are any NATO forces on the ground. And by the way, the NATO forces, they don't have much to send. You know, the British would be lucky if they could mobilize 30,000 troops to send somewhere. The French are about the same. So who else is going to show up and send troops in? The Poles aren't going to send any more in. The president of Poland has made that very clear. No more Polish forces under any circumstances will go into Ukraine. And he's got, 3-4 million Ukrainians in his country. He's trying to figure out how to send them.
I thought Europe was better.